Welcome to Tales from My Recliner. I'm your host, Uncle Chewy. And before we get started, if you get offended or are easily offended, please turn this off now. Otherwise, I don't really care. I don't need people to like this. I don't need subscribers or anything like that. So don't feel like you need to do anything like that because it just really bugs me when people always are asking for likes and, press, smash that button. There doesn't need to be any of that. So let me start out with a little, information ahead of time, a little background. All right. So my story starts when I was maybe around 40, in my early 40s. I had gone through or my family and me had gone through kind of a financial crisis. And, we had to revamp a lot of things that were out of the house as far as spending. And it kind of made me look to see what I need to kind of focus on as far as stress levels in my life. And one of the biggest stress levels was finance. I felt suffocated. I felt like I was, day to day, working day to day, and I shouldn't have been like that. So we went ahead and restructured everything. And one of the biggest things was to try to get to a point where you could pay off debts and get into a position where you weren't always under somebody's thumb. And I think there are a lot of people in the world that are underneath somebody's thumb, and it's a difficult position to be in. So anyway, I worked for the next 6, 7 years, 8 years, just paid everything off, tried to get in a position where, I had 6 months to a year to 2 years, whatever it was going to take to get myself so that I didn't have to live in a very stressful or work in a very stressful environment. So fast forward 10 years after all this happened, and I was kind of in that position. I put myself in that position. And I will also, at this point, I'm going to introduce the characters to the story. So obviously, I'm not going to use their real names, but there are three main characters. And the first is, we'll just call him Uncle Fester. He's the main person in our story. He's kind of the bully. And the story is named after him. He's and I had a real hard time with that. I was trying to figure out, should I call him, there are a lot of different words I could describe him. Idiot, moron, a lot of different things in that. But, I went through the idiot, moron, and decided moron kind of fit it the best. And then there's Lurch, and because he was kind of a big, tall guy and, spoke kind of like Lurch. So we'll leave it at that. And then above him, so there was Fester, reported to Lurch, who reported to, and the top of the chain was Karen. I'll just leave it at that. So anyway, for about 10 years, Fester, the main person in the story, I knew him. I kind of worked with him, not for him, or supported him in different ways. And he kind of he was. I didn't work directly with him, so but I heard a lot of stories that he was very difficult to work with and very condescending, and so I just kind of I didn't really have to deal with that, so it wasn't a problem for me. So at one point, he ends up becoming our manager, my group's manager, and that's I'd heard all the bad things about him, but we'll just work through it, and we'll probably be fine. So we get to a point where, and I have to back up and say that, he's just fat. He's really, really fat. And he bounced around the company a lot. Given the fatness, it was easy for him to bounce around the company quite a bit. And once we started working for him, or working beneath him, we were feeling that suffocating feeling. So once again, he was giving us that suffocating fat feeling on top of us. But anyway, so for maybe a year and a half, were working underneath Fester. And it's not so bad because he is definitely a bully. Not a physical bully, but a verbal bully. And one good thing was, so he didn't work in our office. Once again, he bounced around, and he was up in northern around the Great Lakes in that area. So we didn't have to see him, which was nice, not having to see him. I mean, the Fester thing really, I mean, with the black around the eyes and everything, it was just right there. And plus, he was kind of like, I mean, when people get the carts at Walmart, he was kind of like that fatness, where you don't really walk straight, you kind of waddle around. So, just to give you a good impression of what he was like. So anyway, for like the first year that we worked for him, it wasn't so bad because, and I'm hypocritical with this because he was on our team and he was a verbal bully and he used to push through a lot of projects for us. So it was kind of a good thing, but anyway, so he was, due to his extra chunky nature, he was going to go and have a procedure done for his gastro so he could lose some weight. So, but anyway, so we knew about this happening. And the day before, I was on a conference call with him. And we were discussing a project. And he had never really done this before, but he was on the call, and I'll give you an example. I don't remember exactly what happened, but he threw out something that was really bizarre in this meeting. He said, he made a comment, some like, I'll just kind of equate it, like, why don't we build a bridge with strawberries or something like that, and one of those things that you just go, like, what? Do what? Build a bridge with strawberries? And what happened was there was this uncomfortable silence for, say, about 15 seconds. And that's enough with a group and there were probably about 15 people on the phone on this meeting, conference call. And 15 seconds seems like a lifetime. And so I was the lucky person to say, Faster, can you kind of expand on that a little bit? Give us a little more details about what you're talking about, the strawberries, building the bridge with the strawberries. And he kind of stopped for a second. And he said, well, just never mind. Let's move on. So anyway, about a minute or two go by, and he starts these verbal attacks on me. I mean, he's pounding away at me on this conference call. And I couldn't even get a word in edgewise because he was just blasting me constantly. And it went on for, it seemed like a long time, but it was probably pretty short. And so I never had this happen to me in my career. So I put up with it for about a half a minute, and we were almost close to the end of the meeting. So, at that point, I just said, look, I'm out of here. And I just hung up the phone with him blabbering or blowhard, whatever he was doing. I shut up. I just put down the phone and said, I'm out of here. So anyway, I thought since he was our boss that he would contact me right away because I left the call early and just kind of hung up on the conversation. But a couple hours went by and there was no call. So this was really bugging me. I was really mad at him for this attack, this barrage he put on me. And so I'm like, I can't wait any longer. A couple hours went by and I got to call him and find out. He's not in my office, so I got to call him up, see what's going on. And so I do. And first thing he says is, I said something about him, like, what happened with that call? And he said, I have got a bone to pick with you. He was angry on the phone. And I'm trying to figure out what could he possibly be angry about? And he says, look, you made a fool of me on that call. And enlighten me. What did I do to anger you on that call? And he said, well, my boss was on that call and I threw out an idea and you basically cut me down. And I said, I don't understand what you're talking about. Are you talking about the strawberries with the bridge thing? Yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about. And you made a fool out of me in front of my boss. And I said, I don't understand. And he said, well, look, there have been people in my past that have kind of described me as a savant, that things just like come into my head and I say them. And it's like, from divine intervention comes down into my brain and I just blurt it out. And I'm just like dumbfounded listening to him. And he says, and then people like you are supposed to interpret what I say and figure out how this works, how we can build a bridge with strawberries. And I just didn't even know how to come back. And I just told him, I said, I can't believe how what you said to me and all this stuff. But anyway, we end our conversation. And the next day he goes on gastro surgery or whatever. So it's supposed to be 6 weeks, but it ended up being about 8 weeks or even maybe more. And it was like bliss because we had another person we were reporting to temporarily. And I was just hoping that this would be we wouldn't have to deal with him anymore. It seemed like, that was like it was because we weren't having any issues not having him in the fold. So anyway, probably over 8 weeks goes by, a long time goes by. And we kind of forgot about him. I kind of forgot about him. But then he's back, and he's still out of town, so we don't have to see him face to face. And he's probably for about a week and a half. He's kind of cool. He's not interrupting things, and maybe he's just getting himself reestablished as the belligerent blowhard he is. And so anyway, then all of a sudden we have a meeting probably a couple weeks after he comes back, and we were going through projects, and there was one in particular that took a long time, and we had already gone through everything. We had everything ready to complete. We were very close to the end of it, without his savant ideas or anything like that. We managed to do this project even without his special powers. So anyway, well, I'm on another large conference call, a lot of people. And we get so far into the call, and he pretty much all of a sudden launches in and says, we're discussing the end of this particular project. It's time out, hold everything, stop the presses. This is all stopping because I don't know what you've been doing on this project, and I don't like where it's going, and I don't understand, the whole thing, and I want you to stop. I want you're going to give me a demo in 2 weeks of this project. You're going to go through all the documentation with me. And he just kept laying these demands on me. And I just remember I just had this moment where I sat and I'm thinking to myself as he's talking all this, I'm thinking, this is Armageddon. This is the last line of defense at this point. And I guess I paused for a little bit because I remember him saying, do you get that? Do you understand what you need to do? And I just remember it was the wall. You either go to one side or the other side. It's binary, 1 or 0. Either I wimp out and just go on like I had been going, or I go ahead and cross that line and pretty much, tell him what I really feel. So I stopped, and I just remember it was kind of like an out of body experience. I started just saying no. I'm talking, but it sounds like somebody else is talking on the conference call because I can't believe I'm saying this. But I said no, Fester. I'm not going to be doing this. I'm not going to be doing a demo for you. I'm not going to be doing the doc. I'm not doing the things you have just requested. He's just like, no one ever, goes up against him because he's just a bully. And I said, no, I'm not going to be doing it. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to have to go back to your bosses. Let's see, Lurch and Karen, because I really don't want to be working with you anymore. And he was just like, what? What are you saying? And at that point, I said, look, I'm going to have to talk to Lurch and Karen, and I don't really have anything more to say in this meeting. So bye. And I dropped out of the meeting. I couldn't believe what I had done. And immediately, I had three ways to communicate at the time. This is a while back. So first way is through conventional telephone on my desk, and the second way was my cell phone, and the third way was with Messenger through our business computer, through my laptop. And I can't even tell you the barrage that I was met with him, because it was either the phone or the office phone, cell phone, computer, office phone, cell phone, computer, rinse and repeat, just over and over. He's trying to get a hold of me on the messenger. He could write. So he's telling me, this is it. This is the end of your career. You are making a serious mistake. And I would just write, fine, Fester. I'm just going to have to talk to Lurch and Karen. And we went round and round, and I just kept lifting up the office. So I lift it up, shut it, put it down, take my cell phone, end the call, end the messenger, and round. And I just kept doing that for about, I don't know, about maybe 15 minutes or so. And then a message comes up on my screen, and it says, that's it. You're done. Leave the office now. And I wasn't surprised by that at all. But at that point, I had pretty good clarity. I thought, all right, I'm just going to grab all my stuff because I don't know if I'm ever going to be here again. I had been over there for almost 20 years. I'm just going to grab my stuff and make sure everything personal I have and leave. So it took me a little longer than the 20 minutes. And he ends up sending me a message, says, are you gone? Why are you still here? So I wrote back and said, I'll be out in a couple of minutes, And I didn't put any obscenities or anything like that. I just said, I'll be out of here. So I gathered all my stuff up, and everybody around me was like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I've had it with this guy. So other people are going to determine if I'm going to be here or not. But I'm not dealing with them anymore. I don't want to be on any projects. I don't want to be copied on emails with him. I don't want to have any contact whatsoever with this guy. I want like a 500-yard rule that this guy can't come near me with anything, because I just don't have to or want to deal with this person in my life anymore. And I put myself in this position because I had enough stashed away, and with that decision over 10 years prior, that I didn't want to deal with anybody like this if, this situation occurs. And it came into effect. I couldn't believe what was happening. So I grab all my stuff and get in my car and I drive home. And I didn't talk to anybody, and I just went home and, put on television and started relaxing. And within maybe an hour, I get a call from Lurch. And he says to me, he said, what are you doing? And I said, well, I'm at home. I'm sitting at home. He said, why are you at home? Well, I was told to come home by one of your workers, my boss, to go home. And I'm here. I'm home. He said, why didn't you see me first? I said, well, he's my direct report, and you weren't in your office, so I came home. And he said, well, what are we going to do at this point? I said, I don't know, because this is really up. And I understand I'm putting you in a really difficult position because you're an employee and you have to deal with, I know I can't even imagine how he's going to be screaming at you and Karen about, how can someone that's not, I wasn't even an employee, I was a contractor, how a contractor could put him in this position. You have to make a decision. If I'm going to stay on, I can't be dealing with this person anymore. So, and he was understanding. Lurch was understanding, and he said, "Well, give me a day or so. I'm going to have to talk to Karen and see what see what we come up with." And I said, "Look, you come up with anything you want because really, at this point, I consider myself retired. I grabbed all my stuff because I don't anticipate coming to the office again. So, it's up to you whether you want to bring me back. I don't really care if you bring me back or not. It doesn't matter to me." So, I think around 2 days went by, and I just couldn't believe it because he came back on with Karen. And they were both telling me, what a difficult position I put him in. And I said, look, I didn't mean to do that. If you want to be mad, you get mad at Fester because he's the one that, launched all this. He's the guy, not me. I just can't deal with somebody. If you were in my shoes, you would do the same thing. So they end up telling me that, we're going to reassign you. And I couldn't even believe they were doing it because they could have just let me go. And I really wouldn't have cared. But they reassigned me to another manager. And this is the best thing then. So I came back and Faster. I think I didn't even see it happen because I ended up changing course in my career. I knew at that point I needed to do something else. So I ended up leaving. I think it was probably about a month to 6 weeks afterward. And but the best thing is that about 3 months later, Faster was fired, and about 6 months after that, Lurch was fired. So I know there's poetic justice sometimes in certain situations, but this was the ultimate poetic justice. So for all people that this may kind of give you, some inspiration to put yourself in a position so that the Festers and the Lurches in this world you don't have to be underneath their thumb, and you can redefine yourself and not allow that to happen. If something happens in your life, you can change course and not have to deal with that. So I hope you all enjoyed that. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. It's history. So hopefully I'll come up with another one if people like this. So ciao.